welcome to Retail Fest by Top Drawer. Khalia, thank you so much for joining us. I thought we would just start by a little intro about Jamii and your business journey so far.
Hi. Oh, my mic is very loud. Oh, okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Khalia. I'm the founder of Jamii. Jamii is a marketplace and platform for Black creators and makers in the UK. So we started back in August 2016. We were born out of the first wave of the Black Lives Matter movement, where, very similar to things that were happening last year, a lot of people were looking for ways to support Black-owned businesses as a way to support the Black community more generally. But what we were finding, or I as an individual was finding, is that was a lot easier said than done. Like, if you can't find them, and if you can't find businesses that are making products or doing services that you're using on a regular basis, then what's going to end up happening is you're just going to do it once, and then you're just going to kind of go back to buying and shopping the ordinary places. And so we created a platform to make it super easy to find them. But we also had a discount card. So the idea was to kind of positively reinforce people to be looking for Black creators, shopping with them on a regular basis. And the reason being, first of all, everyone loves discount. And also, it's just something about creating positive experiences. And if you haven't necessarily heard of a business before, if you know you've got 15 or 20% off, it just takes out some of the friction of that purchase, and you just think to yourself, well, why the hell not? Let me give it a go. And then you'll tell people about it, and then it kind of encourages repeat purchases. But then as the years went on, we realized that we were solving just part of the problem, and actually we needed to be doing a lot more. So we launched an online marketplace so that all of these businesses could be found in one place, but also you could literally just buy it with like single click, single checkout. You could just buy it super easy, all your discounts be automatically applied. We introduced gift cards because people like to say, oh, rather than using Amazon or something, people will be like, oh, I'll give you a Jamii gift card, something like that. And then we expanded to do pop-up shops, to do in real life marketplaces as well, because there's no substitute for literally just picking up a product and looking at it and talking to the person who's made it and finding out their story. And more recently, we started collaborating with bigger organizations to kind of amplify our work even more. So we released a film with Pinterest recently called Legacy, which is basically telling the stories of nine Black creators, and just kind of like making it really clear that it's not just businesses. You're not buying from a business, you're buying from a person. You're supporting their passion, you're supporting their craft, you're supporting their local community as well. And yeah, so that's like our journey in a nutshell.
I love it. That's incredible. Like, starting a market, you don't just start a marketplace, do you? Like, that's no mean feat. That's incredible. So, from the customer's point of view, that's brilliant. You're making it really easy for them, and that's great to access kind of Black-owned businesses. What are some of the challenges that the business owners come across? So, like, what are the challenges that a Black-owned business owner would come across?
So, the term like Black-owned business is obviously like it's broad, and when you talk about the experiences of Black-owned businesses, it's not every single one will have every single issue, but statistically Black-owned businesses struggle when it comes to access, whether that's accessing finance, whether it's accessing networks, resources, knowledge. Less than 1% of investment ends up in Black-owned businesses, which means that they are reliant on personal funds and customer funded growth, sales, for success. But when you're a small business anyway, and capital is difficult to come across, it just reinforces problems, which it then creates like a cycle. And then on top of that, like, Black-owned business owners tend to not be in certain networks, which means access to things like buyers, to journalists, to mentors is that much more difficult as well. And so it all just becomes like this little cycle of just challenge after challenge, and it just gets reinforced.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I think until last year, I hadn't really kind of examined that for myself, or dug that deep, thinking how systemic racism means that the opportunities aren't available and the networks aren't there, and you know, they don't go to the schools that like eaten, and that, you know, statistically, as you say, those opportunities just don't arise as commonly, do they? But through the kind of second wave of BLM last June, how did that focus on Black Lives Matter affect your business? How does that impact the business? And since, I'd be really interested to know.
Yeah, so for the first 3.5 years of Jamii's existence, we got a lot of oh, that's a nice idea. Oh, that's good. Obviously, people got it, but it was very much they got it at a high level. And then after everything that happened with George Floyd and the weeks following, all of a sudden people got it. They understood and they felt it with all their being, and their purses and their wallets started opening, and everything kind of exploded. Our website traffic went up 2,000% over that 6-week period. Everything just went up. It was crazy. We were getting order notifications every 2 minutes where people were just buying stuff, which was obviously amazing, but I was also looking at it when is this going to stop? I obviously was very acutely aware that this was a moment as opposed to a change in a movement. And so in that 6-week period, for us, we made a significant amount more than we'd made before. And so did a lot of the businesses that we work with. We actually did a report on it, which was showing people made more in June 2020 than they'd made in 2019, which was crazy. But for us, we were just okay, this is great, but how can we make sure that this sustains to Christmas or sustains to a year on? And so we started putting as many marketing mechanisms in place, make sure we were capturing everyone's email addresses and phone numbers and all this kind of stuff to keep the momentum. And for us, we've been fortunate. We were able to sustain that interest. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of people who did kind of drop off the map. We had a lot of big businesses reach out to us to say they wanted to work with us, but by the end of the summer, all of a sudden it was hey, you still there? You still want to do? But we've had also a lot that have continued on their support, which is amazing. But I think for a lot of Black founders, they found the same thing. That June was oh my God, wow. But then 6 months on, things have started to subside. They've not necessarily gone back to kind of pre-BLM levels, but they have kind of dropped back down, which I think just shows it's so important. Once you've got people's attention, that's amazing, but you just need to harness that and make sure that we keep reinforcing why it's important, so it's not just a social media trend.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a huge topic, isn't it? We could talk about it all day, but so in the kind of months that I know when we were talking before, you said there was a kind of 6 month drop off, then a 6 month again. Do you think you'll continue to see that, or do you think that you've kind of reached the level now where you'll kind of sustain that level of trade?
I don't think it's gonna drop off again. I think generally what's happened is people have, like you're saying, kind of have realized actually there's a real issue here. But I think we just need to continue to engage these people in moments and make sure it's super clear why this is important. What's the impact you're making? If you make this purchase, what are you actually doing for the world? So no, I don't think there's going to be more of a drop off. And I think when we come into Christmas, we're going to see things kind of reignite once more, because I think part of that drop off is also we've been allowed outside. People aren't buying online in the way that they were having to last year. So we've been allowed outside. We had 30-degree weather for a few days, so everyone was just buying ice creams and stuff. So I think as we go into Christmas, things will start to pick back up again, and we'll just kind of have normal kind of e-commerce seasons.
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely those trends. We've seen sales just completely drop off a cliff over the summer, and that's really normal, isn't it? So there's some huge brands here today and people in pretty powerful positions. How, as consumers and people online, on social, and buyers, and in kind of corporate roles, how can we be better allies to Black-owned businesses and the businesses that you work with? So I would say, first of all, just to look at, I suppose that's the easiest thing. It's not easy, but to look at your supply chain. So to look at who are you stocking, who are you buying from, who's got your contracts,
and where can that be diversified? What small businesses, what black-owned businesses can be included there? Looking at your shop windows, looking at your communities and seeing, am I actually representing them? But then also looking at your resources. What do you have and what can you share? Like if you've got a community of if you've got like 1 million followers on Instagram, just even something as simple as just like passing the mic and doing brand takeovers so that you can introduce your customers to those of black-owned business as well. It's something which is so simple, but they're so powerful. And I think it's something which, if you've got this huge platform, if you've got significant resources, even if you've got significant credibility, putting your logo on something will help. Funding grants. We've had a few businesses reach out to us recently to say they want to give grants to black-owned businesses, and can we help them with that, or can we help organize mentoring programs with their organizations, or donating hours. So we've had like agencies come to us and say, look, we're experts in this, like can we commit to X amount of hours to donate to some of the businesses that you work with? There's like so many things that you can do if you just think to yourself, what have I got and what can I share?
Yeah, that's so interesting. I know there was quite a lot of kind of knee-jerk offers, and you've already alluded to it last year. Through June there was quite a lot of, God, we should be doing something, and it wasn't necessarily followed through. I know we went to do a couple of initiatives, and people were kind of saying, oh, do you think that's the right thing? Do you think it's the right message? But I guess what you're saying is it's better to do something and be corrected that maybe your intentions are right, but it's not maybe the correct message or the correct way to do it.
Yeah, definitely. I think, everyone's a bit worried about being cancelled, but it's so much better to do something with good intentions, with a clean heart. Yeah, you might get a bit wrong, but people get things wrong. That's fine. You can be forgiven than to not do anything at all, especially if you posted a black square. People will remember if you posted a black square and then did nothing to follow it up. But if in doubt, just ask. There are so many organizations like ours who can just provide advice of just like, oh, well, you could do this or you could do that. Like, we had Clear Channel, who's an out-of-home advertiser, reach out to us to say, we want to give free out-of-home advertising to black-owned businesses. Can you help us? And we were like, yeah, of course. Like, that's a no-brainer for us. And so, there's so much that can be done.
Brilliant, I love it. So your business is like completely about the community, isn't it, on so many different levels. What do you think the secret is, or the key is, to building that kind of thriving, engaged community that is the basis of a business?
So I think when it comes to building a community, you just have to be really clear like what you're about. You have to stand for something. Even so, obviously for us it's about economic empowerment, it's about Black British culture and celebration, but even if it's just about skin or if it's about hair, like as long as you stand for something, it's really clear. Like if I come to your shop or if I come to your website or your space, I know what I'm going to get and I'm able to relate to it in some way. So for us, like it's really clear. If you come to the Jamii page, first of all, our logo is orange, which is like a really bright, happy, chatty colour, so you know you're going to come to our page and you're going to get good vibes. You're going to get some educational content. You're going to get a whole load of black-owned businesses, and you're going to feel good. People are attracted to that because they know what we stand for, and they think, I stand for that too, so I'm going to join this community. And just being consistent with it, not kind of lurching from left to right and poking your nose in places where they don't belong. Like, Pretty Little Thing had huge backlash over the weekend for a pretty tasteless post about 9/11 that they were inserting themselves in, because that's not who they are. And so it's like, you need to know who you are and stand fast at that.
Yeah, we've seen so much of that, haven't we? Like, brands just get it so wrong in, like, trying to insert themselves into it was huge with Pride this year, wasn't it, where everyone suddenly got a rainbow logo and it's just that there's nothing to back it up. That's the issue, isn't it?
Yeah, literally, that's the problem. It's like you haven't spoken about this ever, and now all of a sudden it's June, and you've got Pride logos, and it's just like, no, like in 2021, we can all see through what the things that you're trying to say. You're just trying to latch onto a social cause, social movement, because you think it's cool.
Yeah.
But if you don't have the credentials to back it up, stay out of the conversation.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It makes total sense. What advice do you have for the audience on telling their own story in a compelling way? You're so articulate about the Jamii story and your story. What advice do you have for people to really kind of get that across in a concise and powerful way?
So I would say pick a medium that you're comfortable with. So me personally, I'm much better at talking than writing things down. So I don't write blogs, I don't write articles really or anything like that, because it's just I'm not as good at writing things as I am talking about them. Practice makes perfect. People have been asking me my story for a while now, so I've been able to kind of like refine it and stuff. But I think also just like being really clear on what your own emotional moments were, because people relate to the kind of organic parts of your story. So when like for instance, like the word Jamii is Swahili for community, and the reason why I chose that word was because I got the confidence to start Jamii when I was in Kenya. I did like a small business program out there, and then when I came back and I wanted a word that meant something, I thought community, like, is really inclusive, and I wanted it to link back to my time there. But that's personal and that's emotional, and people connect with things like that. And I think just knowing what is your why and being open with that. You don't have to be too vulnerable. I'm not saying you need to kind of like spill the beans and spill everything out in front of everyone all the time, but allowing yourself to just be a little bit personal, because people buy from people and people connect with people. Like, it's not a coincidence when if I post my face on the Jamii page, that's the one that gets the most engagement, because people are like, oh yeah, you're real.
Yeah, no, that makes so much sense. I think following on from that, I'm just interested to know what your social media strategy is, because you're promoting a cause and you're advocating and you're kind of hosting this community, but you are also selling. It is also, you know, a commercial venture. So what is your social strategy around that?
So our social media strategy is to build a community through like interesting and relatable content. So whether that's things that are specifically funny to the people that are in the Jamii community. So there was a post the other day that we did about how plantain is no longer 3 for £1, which, like, if you buy plantain, that's mad to you. Because I remember when I was young, it used to be 4 for £1, and like that's how we judge inflation, is by how many plantains you can get for £1. So like people in the Jamii community found that hilarious. And so finding content like that is like gold, because people will then share it with they'll put it on their stories, they'll share it with their friends, and then people will be like, what's this account posting? Like, what, like, who is this? And then they'll come on and they'll see it and they're like, oh, I want to follow this account too. Or educational content, so things like when the Windrush scandal happened, or even on the anniversary, we did a huge like post around what it was and like what people can do and things like that. And that, again, that is content that is really valued by our community and gets shared and saved and is really used. But then also just finding interesting ways to sell things. So kind of like going back to the plantain thing, we do memes around plantain, and then you swipe and it's a load of plantain themed products, and then you're like, oh, I want some plantain themed oven gloves, purchase that, nice. And so just kind of like continuing to find interesting ways, like, because, you know, you've got analytics on like Instagram or something, you can see what's performing the best, and just being like, okay, how can I take this post and turn it into sales for these products?
That's so interesting. And I guess for your social, you've kind of do you split your content out into content that'll talk to your existing community and then content that would attract customers, I guess? Or, you know, if you're kind of sharing that stuff that's really like culturally specific, do you have content that speaks to the wider community that would potentially be customers, or do you just kind of keep it community based?
So we do. So when we are kind of like looking at kind of reminding people of our why. Like, we have kind of more mission-based content, which talks about literally why it's so important to buy from Black creators and what it is that we're trying to create in the world, and telling the stories of individual creators as well. So, for instance, we asked one of our partners, what's your biggest achievement? And she was saying getting to 1,000 orders, and people love that, and they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, like I want to be 1,001, and then they'll tap and they'll make a purchase. So yeah, we do have like different pillars of content, which would be funny, educational content, just here's a product which I think you're gonna really like, and then here's why you should buy that product too.
Nice, I love that. And how do you decide which platforms to focus on? Which are your kind of hero platforms?
So Instagram is our biggest one, and that's probably because me as a person, I'm more comfortable on Instagram, so I just kind of lent in with that. And then followed by Twitter, which I think is because of what we do. Twitter is quite good for getting information out. We don't spend a lot of time on it, because obviously the thing about Twitter is if you want to do it well, you have to be on it 24/7, which no one has time for that.
So some people do. Clearly.
I definitely do not have time for that. I don't have time for that. So Instagram is definitely our biggest one. It's the one that we've been doubling down on the most. It's got our biggest audience, and I think it's much better to do really well on one platform than to be stretched in like among five. Because when I signed us up to every single platform, I was trying to post on all of them, and I was just like, this is taking up way too much time.
Yeah, it's impossible, isn't it? I see so many people that try and do that. They're on like every platform and kind of not doing anything that well, like just doing so much but nothing, haven't really nailed anything. You alluded to it earlier, but with social, what are your kind of metrics, and how do you use insights to inform content that is working or isn't working? What are your kind of objectives with social?
So our biggest metric is actually saves. So, who's saving content because they want to come back to it. Because Instagram is not a selling platform, it's a marketing platform. So people are on it to consume content, they're not on it to spend money. So if they're saving things, it means, I've seen something I like, I'm going to come back to it later. They're, putting it into a collection or whatever. And then followed by that, I would probably say comments, because obviously comments is like a great way to show like engagement, or before the Instagram changed its rules, like we used to really pay attention to the number of shares as well. So it's like, obviously if you're sharing content, then it means that like all of a sudden like it's going, you can see its reach, although now Instagram's changed that, so you can't do that anymore.
Don't get me started.
It's so annoying. I'm just like, every day I'm just like, view public reshares and trying to count them up by hand.
Have you lost your reshare function yet? Have you got the reshare sticker?
No.
Oh my god, don't get... Has anyone else lost their shares? Oh my god.
I didn't even know that was a thing. Oh my gosh.
Just wait.
Oh my god. Okay. So for us, saves is the most important thing, followed by comments, and then likes is at the bottom, because it's just like, I just know for a fact, like if I'm posting a picture of a product and I'm like, hey, you should buy this now, it's obviously going to get much less likes than if I'm like, look at this hilarious thing that I've just seen. So it's a little bit of a vanity metric. But yeah, saves is definitely the most important thing for us.
Yeah, brilliant. I love it. And so finally, what piece of advice would you give to the audience on building a brand that really connects with people? I guess bringing everything together that we've talked about with community and storytelling and, the commercial aspect of it. What would your advice be?
So my advice would be to infuse yourself into the brand, and that doesn't mean you have to be an influencer, it doesn't mean you have to be on live, it doesn't mean you have to do anything that's outside of your comfort zone. It just means to remind people that you're there and you're a person and you're not just a machine, you're not just kind of like buying things from a random supplier, sticking your logo on it and shipping it out. Like you've poured your passion, your craft into this, and that's why people should support you. So even if it's just little things like putting a photo up or just letting people know your name is really important. And then but it also helps to infuse like personality into your brand. So you're not just like saying things like, oh, we did this on the weekend, and people are just like, I don't believe you because I don't know anything about this business. And I think you're just saying it to kind of get engagement or to jump on whatever hashtag is trending at the moment. So Jamii definitely started off as an extension of my personality because that was all I knew. Like, it's definitely different from me now. But I think because I was able to be personal and because it clearly was like a mouthpiece for my own passion, people were able to connect with it, and they saw themselves in it, and they were able to say, I really love this brand. Like, people tell me how much they love something that I created, which is weird. Like, you know, it's strange that someone feels that strongly about an organization or about business, but when you allow them to love you, like when you allow people to take value from you, it just creates wonderful things.
I love that. I got so many, when I posted about doing this, I got so many really, really positive messages saying the same thing. So it's nice that they tell you too, because they're definitely saying it about you. That's great. What's next for Jamii? You've got a collab coming up at Box Park. Tell us all about that. What's the next stage of the journey?
So yeah, really excited. So next month we're going to be in Box Park, Shoreditch. We're going to be doing a pop-up shop for a week. Really, really excited about that. I love doing pop-up shops. They're so much fun. From the 20th of October, we'll be there. And then we're going to be doing another shop at Christmas time as well. I'm super excited about that. But in terms of what's coming next, like, we really want to get out into the world more. So we're predominantly online platform, online community. We want to do more pop-up shops. We want to do more physical retail, and we want to do them not just in London, but across the UK as well.
I love that. You'll have to come up to Sheffield.
Yeah,
we
definitely.
need something like that. I love it. Khalia, thank you so much. Thanks everyone for listening. We're going to hang around for the next 5, 10, 15 minutes if anyone's got any questions, wants to come up and ask either of us anything. Thank you, Khalia. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.